Welcome to the Best of Beaver County, presented by St. Barnabas, a weekly segment dedicated to putting the focus on the amazing things and the amazing people behind them in Beaver County. The Best of Beaver County is sponsored by and content is provided by St. Barnabas. The show airs every Thursday from 11 to 11:30 on WBBP, WMBA, 99.3 FM, and Facebook Live. Now, with no further ado, let's welcome host Mike Romigh to introduce today's program.
Good morning and welcome to the Best of Beaver County radio show on the St. Barnabas Radio Network. Since 1900 and counting, St. Barnabas has been caring for people in southwestern Pennsylvania. Today in Allegheny, Beaver, and Butler counties, we offer a full continuum of care for our residents, patients, and our retirement community. The St. Barnabas Health System has developed into a visionary leader in the healthcare industry through compassionate and quality care, offering an array of unparalleled health care services, from skilled nursing to extensive memory care activities and programs. Additionally, the medical center has world-class doctor and dentistry teams where patients can receive a full range of services under one roof that include rehabilitation, home care, and home health, hospice care, and palliative care. Building upon its heritage, St. Barnabas continues to reach out to those in need and lives out its mission through individual and institutional services which help the health, social needs, and increase the quality of life for others. Men and women are invited to join in the work of continuing Christian caring, healing, and teaching, and along with St. Barnabas, bear witness to its founder's reminder, God is able. With dedication and commitment to community, St. Barnabas remains steadfast in meeting the physical, emotional, and spiritual needs of families as they navigate challenging times. Certain health conditions tend to decrease our quality of life and present their own level of stress and anxiety. Here to talk with us about one of the more challenging and perhaps misunderstood approaches to healthcare is Lisa Grum. Lisa is a hospice care nurse at St. Barnabas. Please join me in welcoming Lisa to the program. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for coming in with us today.
Thank you for having me.
When I read the introduction, it said challenging, and you are a hospice nurse. That
Yes.
is challenging. So often we think of nursing in terms of meeting someone's physical need, but in hospice you're caring for their physical, spiritual, and emotional needs as well.
That's correct. Yes. We specialize in end-of-life and hospice care, not just for a patient, but also for their families. And that involves not just their physical aspect, but also their spiritual as well.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been in the profession of nursing?
So I've been a registered nurse for about 20 years. I went to UPMC Shadyside School of Nursing. I got my first job in nursing in heart and lung transplant. Was there for about 2 years and then transferred to a traumatic brain injury rehab unit. Stayed there for about 10 years. Saw wonderful things happen in the care for patients there with the amazing staff that they had. And then about 4 years ago, we moved, my husband and I with our kids, to the Gibsonia area. Saw St. Barnabas, looked them up online, saw they had a hospice program, applied, and I've been here for about 4 years.
What is it, Lisa, about a challenge that you enjoy so much? You're working with lung transplants and other transplants and brain injuries and now hospice. What is it?
I've been a natural caregiver. I feel my best when I am doing something for other people, being some type of service, helping them through anything they might be going through. It just really even just improves my quality of life. I'm my happiest when I'm helping someone else.
So you have to have a more or less a unique and compassionate form of caring or outlook for patients?
Especially with hospice. It's not for everyone. Not every nurse could come into hospice care and be successful. It's a totally different kind of care. End of life, everyone has a different view on that. And my view has always been more realistic. I don't see death as necessarily an overwhelmingly sad or bad thing. I have more of a natural approach of, life is part of death. We are no different than every other being, the animals and the trees and the flowers. Everybody has a life cycle, and that cycle eventually comes to an end.
Yeah, that is a unique way of looking at things, but it's difficult to convey that
Yes.
to a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah.
Who is it more difficult to convey that to? The patient? Is the patient more accepting than the family members?
Sometimes, yeah, they seem to have more of an understanding of what is happening to them as our bodies break down and come to the end. You know, mentally you become accepting of that. But for families, it's definitely more of a challenge. You know, there's nothing sadder than losing someone that you love more than anything, and the idea of not seeing that person every day is very hard. So hospice care is really focused on the families too, and helping them cope and going through their bereavement.
I've often said that, or often heard that it's kind of selfish on the part of the family members, because you want to hold on, you want them to,
Yes.
you know, pull through this, but it's not always good.
It's
Like
not.
they said, I think it was Jim Morrison said, no one gets out of here alive.
That's right.
You know.
That's right. And it's hard for the families because it's so final. It's so final that, you know, that person's not going to be with you in a physical sense. But we really try to focus on finding ways that they can take that person with them, their loved one that they've lost, you know, memories. Our hospice team follows families for up to a year to provide bereavement counseling. We check in with them, we offer support groups, we send cards, and having the hospice care there in the last days helps the family come to terms with, this is final, I am going to lose them, but we're able to spend time together where we want to, as opposed to them being in a hospital alone. They're able to live their life the way they want to.
How would you describe hospice care? Because for many of us, if you know there's a patient and the physicians are saying, well, we have hospice care that can help you through that, we sometimes see that as an end of life.
Yes. So hospice really has made a lot of advances and changes, if you'll say, within the last few years. You know, there's kind of an old-fashioned view of hospice. It's sad, oh, somebody's going on hospice, they maybe only have a few days left to live, they really are at the end of their life, but hospice really has become a palliative and end-of-life service. You know, we get patients months before the end of their lives when they're still able to be a participant in their care. They help us form the plan of care. We get to know them, we get to hear about their life and their experiences, and then also what they want for the end of their life. You know, we spend so much of our time planning every day. We have calendars and organizers. I have to be this place at this time. We plan everything. Why not plan the last days of your life as well? Be an active participant in that sometimes helps with the acceptance of end of life.
And I'm just reminded of former President Jimmy Carter, who went to hospice a couple of months ago. I think it's been a couple of months now.
Yes.
And we're thinking, well, the former president is like 96 or something like that. He's close to death. But I just read a story about him yesterday. He's still there.
He's still there, living his life the way he wants to. And that's really what hospice is about. Learning what a person's end of life wishes might be and how they want to spend their last bit of time left here, and then helping make sure that happens for them.
What can you provide as a hospice nurse with St. Barnabas that family members can't provide?
We can provide medical care that maybe they may not be able to provide. We're able to work with our medical director, Dr. Kerrigan, get medications that they might need. We do a lot of training with families on how to administer meds, how to give a bed bath, how to transfer someone, even how to feed them if they're having trouble eating. So it really is a support and teaching for the entire family who might be caring for that person.
Lisa, sometimes there are emotions, long-term emotions, that are tied up in family relationships. Is it sometimes easier for you as somewhat of an outsider to come in and be more patient
Yes.
with the patients?
Yes. Depending on what their disease might be, that person might not have the same personality that they had, you know, a year ago or 5 years ago. And also sometimes families need to hear an outsider say, it's okay. You're doing a great job. You've done everything that you can. This is going to happen. And you should be proud of the fact that you were able to care for your loved one.
And oftentimes it's 24/7.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah. And even for the family members. And we hear so
Yes.
many family members who are just stressed to the limits because
Yeah.
maybe they still have to work or they're raising families.
Yeah.
And I think my generation is referred to as the sandwich generation. You're raising kids and you're also looking after your parents or grandparents in their last years.
Yeah, yeah. So hospice can really help with that. When we have a patient who is in their home with their family caring for them, when the hospice staff comes in, that is a respite time for that family. We usually encourage that caregiver, go for a walk. Is there something you need to do? Let us take over for you. You know, do you need to run and get the mail? Would you like to do a load of laundry? Is there something we can help with in the home? Run the vacuum for you, something like that.
Let's talk about that. What hospice and workers such as yourself, the difference between home care and home health and hospice care. But what are some of the services that you would provide?
Sure. So our hospice care, our department, it consists of registered nurses, hospice aides, a chaplain who also works with bereavement, a social worker, a medical director, and we also work with our pharmacist. When the nurses come, they do a head-to-toe assessment. They can do dressing changes if there's dressing changes, administer medications, spend time talking with the family and the patient about any changes that might need made. The nursing assistants come and they help with personal care, maybe bathing the patient, shaving a gentleman, curling a woman's hair, making them feel their best. The social worker helps with any social needs they might have, such as getting extra services or making end-of-life funeral arrangements if they're not made yet. And our spiritual care coordinator also helps with end-of-life and making sure that the person's specific spiritual needs are met. Do they need a priest? Do they need, what will their funeral service look like? Stuff like that. So the difference between home care and hospice would be that our care, hospice's care, is more focused towards end of life. Home care is more when a person still wants to seek aggressive treatments.
Yeah. And so you have a whole team.
Yes.
It sounds like.
Yes.
Different people coming in need to be called in at different times.
Yes. We are a smaller hospice, but I think that benefits us in the fact that we are able to provide more personalized care. Our staff is only about a dozen people, and our census right now is between 30 and 40. So you're able to see the same person all the time. You're able to be a part of the plan of care, which really I think benefits as opposed to a bigger hospice.
Now in St. Barnabas, you have the facilities in Gibsonia,
Yes.
and other places, including Beaver Meadows. Here, does your service encompass all these areas?
Yes, so we service patients in the St. Barnabas healthcare facilities, and then we also service the community that surrounds for a small radius between like 13 and 18 miles from the facilities themselves. And a lot of people don't realize that we do venture into the community, that we are a community service, and as long as you're in our radius, we provide care to the community as well.
Do you administer medications, pain management?
We can. Hospice's focus is on symptom management. So if a person has pain, we're adjusting their pain medication to whatever they might need. If they maybe have nausea or if they're anxiety, we adjust medications as needed.
And we have a lot of time to talk here, and we'll take a break here in just a couple of minutes, but caregivers themselves, they oftentimes need some help.
Yes.
They need counseling. What can you do as far as respite care is concerned for caregivers?
So hospice offers 5 days of respite care. I believe it's every 6 months. Don't quote me, I'm not exactly sure, but we do offer respite care. Say a caregiver needed a break because caregiving is very difficult, or they maybe had a wedding out of town. We can move the patient to one of the facilities for a short time, and all of that is covered by the hospice benefit. So there's no out-of-pocket cost for that.
Yeah, so you try and provide those kind of services.
Yes.
Because it is emotionally draining.
Absolutely. We don't want a caregiver to burn out or to all of a sudden end up resenting the care that they have to provide. We want them to remember their person in a good light.
Yeah, and when I think of this and I'm talking to you, I'm trying to correct myself mentally because I'm thinking families, and families are working with the patient. But oftentimes there are no families around. Oftentimes the children are scattered all over the nation, and it's just a husband and a wife caring for one another.
Yeah, and sometimes they're within the same age group. So that can be very challenging for a spouse. So in those cases where maybe a person couldn't stay in their home, we are able to move them to one of the St. Barnabas communities so that they can get the 24-hour care, but so that their loved one can still be with them and not have to worry about focusing on their care.
Lisa Grum is our guest. She is a hospice care nurse at St. Barnabas, and we're figuring out what hospice is with Lisa, understanding what the roles are, and also what nurses do when they come in for hospice care to individual families. And we'll continue that conversation because it may be impacting your family right now. We continue the conversation on the St. Barnabas Radio Network.
Let's face it, work is a large part of your life. Why not choose a job that allows the opportunity of a fulfilling career working with people who appreciate you? St. Barnabas Health System is looking for extraordinary, service-minded people to join our team. Earn and learn with career opportunities on our clinical, housekeeping, and food service teams. For more information and to apply, visit stbarnabashealthsystem.com or call 724-625-5573. Jobs that are apart from the ordinary. Find them at St. Barnabas Health System.
You're listening to the Best of Beaver County on the St. Barnabas Radio Network. We're speaking with Lisa Grum. I'm sorry, Lisa. She is a hospice care nurse for St. Barnabas, and we're talking about hospice and so many other things that go along with it, how it affects the families as well as the individual who needs hospice care. Can you talk with us about a care plan? Hospice care plan?
Sure. So each hospice care plan is individualized to what that patient and their family might need. Sometimes it's based mostly on whatever their terminal diagnosis would be, whether it's a patient with cancer or Alzheimer's or heart failure, COPD. We focus the care plan on managing whatever symptoms they might have, and then also whatever assistance they might need to make sure their end-of-life needs are met, whether that is staying in their home or being transferred to a facility, and what type of additional services their family might need in order to support their decisions.
And as far as the need is concerned, how is that assessed when the patient has been in a hospital or a home care atmosphere for a while?
So it can come from either. Hospice, we receive a consult from either a physician or from home care that the person has a terminal diagnosis and that they no longer wish to seek aggressive treatments. A terminal diagnosis would say that you would have 6 months or less to live if your disease took its natural progress, and that you no longer wanted to seek aggressive treatments for that disease. Now, none of us have a date stamped on us, so that doesn't necessarily mean 6 months. Sometimes we have patients much longer than that. Sometimes we have patients less than that. But once we would get that consult, we would go in, speak with the patient, their family, find out what their views on end of life were, what their needs might be, and then we can really cater our services in making the care plan from everything from, what the hospice aide does whenever they visit. The person wants to go outside, so we work that into the care plan. Whenever a hospice team member visits, they are to take that person outside if that's what they want. The person does not want to go to the hospital, so we encourage the family to call hospice instead of calling 911. A hospice staff member will come, assess the situation, and then encourage them to follow the person's end-of-life wishes.
That's got to be difficult.
It can be. It really can.
Because you have different family members in the house at the time, and whoever it is, the patient is going through some pain. And they want to increase the dosage, increase morphine or whatever it is that they're administering to them, and they have to call you. And you say, well, in the plan it says she doesn't want that done.
We're constantly adjusting our plan. So the medications can always be adjusted. We can always bring in different ones. But as far as going to the hospital, if that's not what the person wants, we try to make sure everybody understands that, you know, and it's understandable for people to want their loved one to go to the hospital. You're seeing this person that you care for, they may be crying, they may be in pain, they may seem short of breath, and that is scary, and you want them to be okay. So I think that's another benefit of us being so small, is that we are in the area of where our patients are at all times, and we are able to drop what we're doing and go to that situation, whether it's, you know, calling in a nurse, an aide, the social worker. Hey, I see that you're down the street seeing someone else. Please stop, see this family member. There's an emergency. Check out the situation.
Sister A and Sister 1 and Brother 3, and they're having this conversation, and oftentimes there may be one family member in the area who's the lead on this, and others get called in from their parts of the country, and they get called in. They don't realize what mom or dad or grandma has been going through.
Yes.
And then so you're going to have disagreements involved.
There are. We try to make sure in the beginning, when we bring a patient on, that we have one person who's in charge, one person that knows what the wishes are. We share information with that person. That person kind of gets to be the lead decision maker. So that can be a challenge at times.
Is it important then, as we're talking about this, and the patient hasn't died yet, but that you have a living will?
Yes.
That you have all this stuff on record?
Make sure your family knows what your wishes are. Have a living will, an advance directive. Be a part in planning that, so that you can make sure those wishes. Pick the person that you think will think with their heart, but also with your heart in mind.
Yeah.
You know.
Maybe I watch too much television, but I'm thinking that somebody says, "Put mom on a respirator," and somebody else says, "No, she didn't want to be on a respirator. Didn't want to." And
that's also a benefit of us getting our patients sooner, as opposed to only having a few days left, because we spend time talking with that patient. What do you want? If this situation happens, what do you want us to do? We really become that person's advocate, and then we kind of make sure those wishes are seen through.
And when you talk about that in terms of patient care and who the caregivers are, sometimes the person has passed away. But how long can one expect to grieve, the grieving process after that death? And that's where, I guess, help for caregivers come in.
Yes. So, as I said before, hospice will follow bereavement for up to a year, longer if we need to. But really being a part of the family's care as well helps with that. You know, you're never going to forget this person that you care for. They're always going to be an important part of your life. And hospice, I think, helps people not necessarily accept losing that one, but finding a way to carry that person on with you. You know, sharing those memories before the person dies helps us remind the people who have lost them of those memories. You know,
and some of us, watch the movie Ghost, and you think that there's spirit hovering around and things. So there are different beliefs, religious or otherwise, in death. How do you go through that?
That's kind of where our social worker and our spiritual care coordinator helps us with that. We're able to cater to whatever spiritual belief a person might have. No matter what religion it is or what their view on end of life is, we're able to get to know them, know what their wishes are, and then we kind of cater towards that.
Hospice care, home health, palliative care, what's the difference?
So palliative care would be if a person maybe wasn't quite ready for end of life yet. Maybe they needed pain management. So, you may only be on palliative care for a short amount of time. Hospice, I would say our hospice is more of a palliative type service because we do offer things like pain management, but usually it is for a person who has accepted that the end of their life is going to come, and that's the care they want to focus on.
Yeah. Where does heart failure, emphysema, Parkinson's, those sort of things fall
All of
into?
those things could fall into either of those, but with a terminal diagnosis, treatments are no longer going to work. Our heart only lasts us so long. There's only so many medications, so many procedures that can extend the life of a person and the condition of their heart. So when those measures have been exceeded, then it maybe is time to come to hospice. Yeah, we can focus more on managing comfort,
So you're saying that there's only so many beats in the heart.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
You only get so many beats.
We only get so many beats. We don't know exactly how many, but we only get so many.
Yeah. Do you find it strange? I mean, you're in the business, so obviously you realize this sort of thing. But is it odd that families that appear so close don't know what the other person is going through or what the other person is thinking and won't accept it?
It's a common thing that does happen. I think just in our society in general, we don't really talk about death. Death is still considered a taboo. Even in hospice care, we have families that sometimes will say, don't tell them you're from hospice. We don't want them to give up. We don't want them to know that they're on hospice. But death comes for all of us. There is no way around it. We don't know when, we don't know how, but I feel like a person and their family grieves better if they accept that and are understanding of that our life is going to end, and that's why we should live it to the fullest.
Well, it certainly is a career path that not everybody can do.
No, it takes a special kind of nurse. Not every nurse can be successful in hospice care. I feel like I've just always had an idea that I was suited for hospice care. I have a realistic view on death. I feel like someone is caring for you when you come into this world, and you should receive that same care when you're leaving.
Yeah, and each individual is different with that.
Yeah.
And each individual family member. I remember when my mother passed away, she had melanoma, so she went through all the treatment. She was fighting it. She had, had to have amputations and stuff like that, but she was fighting it. And the rest of us around, we could see the failing and all that stuff, but she didn't let go, and she wouldn't give up until the priest came in and said, "It's okay.
It's okay.
You can let go."
Yeah, we see that a lot of times with patients. Whether it's a priest or a certain family member that they haven't seen yet, or they wait until their family members leave and they don't, they want to be alone whenever they pass. So we do run into that.
Yeah, so it gets into that whole system.
Yeah.
And in terms of, you said there's help for the caregivers and things like that. Some caregivers, some people will rebound more quickly than others. If it lasts for the grieving period more than 6 months or a year or something like that, should you seek?
I think so, yeah. Our mental health, there's nothing to be embarrassed or ashamed about.
Yeah.
If you're struggling with accepting losing someone, sometimes talking about it helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if people are in the position that we've been talking about as far as hospice care is concerned, and they want to reach out to you through St. Barnabas, how do they do that?
So they can call us at the St. Barnabas Hospice office, or they can, if they are at one of the St. Barnabas facilities, all they have to do is ask a staff member there, can I talk to someone about hospice care? And we'll come right there.
But you say it's usually through a referral if there's an attending physician.
So we can't necessarily admit someone until we have a consult from their physician, but we can offer education to anyone who has questions or who is curious about what hospice care is involved.
Okay. Well, 4 years you've been doing this?
Yeah.
You still look relatively sane. Emotionally fit.
Yeah.
I suppose there are times also that people in your position have to talk to somebody and say, man, I've gone through the ringer here.
I think I work with an amazing crew. The hospice staff, they are very special people, and you have to be in order to do this kind of work. So there are times where we end up supporting each other. When we lose that special patient that maybe has touched our lives in some way, we maybe give each other a card, or we meet back at the office and we talk about funny stories that happened with that patient or their family, and we're providing support to the family, but we also provide support to each other.
Special work, and you certainly are angels getting involved in this for people's lives when it's most stressful. Lisa Grum is our guest. She is a hospice nurse for St. Barnabas. This has been the Best of Beaver County radio show on the St. Barnabas Radio Network. I'm Mike Romigh. Be healthy and stay safe.
Let's face it, work is a large part of your life. Why not choose a job that allows the opportunity of a fulfilling career working with people who appreciate you? St. Barnabas Health System is looking for extraordinary, service-minded people to join our team. Earn and learn with career opportunities on our clinical, housekeeping, and food service team. For more information and to apply, visit stbarnabashealthsystem.com or call 724-625-5573. Jobs that are apart from the ordinary. Find them at St. Barnabas Health System.
Thank you for listening to the Best of Beaver County. St. Barnabas is pleased to have provided content and sponsorship for the program. Tune in this Sunday at 11:30 for an encore presentation of today's program on Beaver County Radio. And next Thursday at 11 for another edition of the Best of Beaver County on WBVP, WMBA, and 99.3 FM.